I knew that was the end of dating.
There is no dating ever again.
That's exactly what I thought when I got married. But 17 years later, when I got divorced, I forgot everything I ever knew about dating. I was starting from scratch, in a new era. Then it dawned on me. All 6 women in my immediate family, from my 85-year-old mother down to my 15-year-old daughter, were dating.
It was just people that were my age that began to show an interest in a widow, or maybe they thought I had money. I don't know exactly what brought it all out. Then I began going with one particular person. He was fun, and we played bridge a lot.
This is an 85-year-old woman. This man asks her out for 2 years. She gives him the cold shoulder. She finally decides to go out with him, and she insists that she be accompanied by a chaperone. I mean, what is she going to lose? And what is he going to do to her? The guy has a heart condition.
He was an ex-boyfriend of my girlfriend. She'd had a stroke, and so he'd stopped seeing her. They aren't as interested in you, and if you're not able to move around.
Anyway, she finally capitulated and went out on a date with him. She really was playing hard to get. He asked the other woman out, the woman who had been the chaperone. And then my mother felt betrayed by this woman. But the whole time he was out with this woman, Wanda, he talked about my mother. So Wanda didn't like it because he talked about our mother, and our mother didn't like it because he felt Wanda betrayed her.
I don't think I would do that again. I think I would be a little bit more cooperative.
I guess it's kind of cute that my grandmother was dating, but it's also, I don't know, I also thought it was kind of inappropriate. But that's not really fair, because just because she's old doesn't mean she shouldn't, like, date.
My grandmother dating is wonderful. I really think so. If she's 85 years old, she is a pistol. She's a total pistol. And I think that dating has something to do with that.
She acted young. She acted like way younger than she was, and that was really embarrassing.
I've only seen her on a date once, and it was just this little game, this little like power play, you know, like who was going to get who to do what for them.
She said that they romped like teenagers. And then she said something about bump and grind, and that was just really awful to witness. I didn't want to hear that from an 85-year-old.
Well, I think it's good for her, and I think we tend to be a little harsh when we judge her because she really doesn't have any experience dating. I mean, she was with the same man for 50 years, and the world is so vastly different. Well, she was dating in, what, the 30s? And, I mean, there's been World War II and the Korean conflict and the Vietnam War and a whole bunch of other occurrences in between, people walking on the moon. And
Grandma comes from a different era, so maybe dating really does have something to do with her self-esteem or whatever. She likes to put makeup on still. And
it was interesting to see Rainbow preparing her for her date and teaching her how to put on makeup so that she would look better and attract men, which is kind of stupid.
That was a really fun experience, seeing her. She was very giddy, and I think it kept her very alive, very youthful.
Yeah, it was fun to see her all excited.
Mom made it seem so easy. I just moved 3,000 miles away from home and didn't really know anyone. I was a single mom in a town that felt like it was all intact families. How was I ever going to meet anyone to date? Well, I'm a pretty good networker, so I told my coworkers and the moms of my kids' friends that I was ready to meet someone. It seemed like a good strategy at the time. The first guy they found for me was Jack, a tennis pro. I don't play tennis, and I'm not the least bit athletic, and the date was kind of boring. But he must have affected me somehow. Immediately after, I developed a bad ache and went to the doctor. Tennis elbow. The next setup is Chip, who was in marketing. His license plate frame said, Cats flattened while you wait. Turned out I liked my cat a lot better than I liked him. Next was Mark, a professor at the university where I worked. His wife left him for a grad student. After one boring coffee date, I could see why. Then I finally met someone on my own. I thought it was a good sign. Peter was a legislative aide. I used to be in the legislature in a different state, so I figured we'd have a lot in common. On our first date, he arrived at my house 3 hours late, having gotten lost. The trip so took it out of him, he felt entitled to spend the night. I said no. Then he offered to massage me with the oil he brought. I had met him once. I had a 3-date rule. I figured the first date had too much pressure. The second, you were just kind of getting to know someone, so give them 3 tries. He didn't make it past 1. Why would anyone go through this?
It's really fun to get to know somebody. Getting to know them, the excitement, and oh, I can't wait to see this person, and he called, and we're doing this. You do something new, and you're always finding out something different each time you talk, and the conversation never lags. There's never a lack of anything to say. It's just like meeting a new friend. But there's also this sexual excitement, this tension, and that's nice.
Well, I think it was validation that you were an attractive female. I know that sounds really trivial and really pathetic, but I think it was, because that's where you got your value in the 50s, if you were a female.
It built your spirits up. You knew whether you were worthwhile, whether you were considered attractive.
All your identity was wrapped up in what male you related to, whether it's your father, your brother, your boyfriend, your husband. But my own motivation, in addition to that, was I was really fascinated by, there was a mystique about men that had been so impressed upon me when I was little because of our mom's attitude about sexuality. I mean, I was not allowed to watch an infant cousin be bathed because, goddess forbid, I might see his little weenie and, you know, and maybe get corrupted, I don't know. But it made it 10 zillion times more fascinating.
It was just fun. Maybe eventually you'd think of marriage, maybe.
It's really fun getting ready for a date. That's like one of the best parts about a date, is getting ready for them.
Yeah, it seemed kind of glamorous. But that's because Rainbow, I think that's just the way she is, because like you said, how she really enjoys getting made up beforehand and making a big fuss out of everything. And I think that if it had just been a normal person, it wouldn't have been such a big deal.
Taking a shower and shaving and exfoliating. And like doing your hair and makeup and deciding what to wear. That's really fun. Like that's part of the party. You know, that's part of the evening, is getting ready, listening to music.
I hate all the anticipation because it's like too much pressure and too much expectations, and like it's why it's better when you're just like hanging out.
The purpose of dating is just to meet people and just kind of see what different people are like, you know, figure out what kind of people you want to hang out with or don't want to hang out with or maybe do want to be with later. Just kind of give you an idea, you know, kind of feel it out. That's what I think the purpose of dating is.
I'm a lot older than my niece, and I'm impatient. I didn't want to figure out who to hang out with later. I wanted now. The setups were pretty painful, so I decided to have better luck with a matchmaker. I found one with a good track record. She interviewed me, thought for a minute, and then pronounced that it would take someone very unusual for me, and she was unlikely to find them.
I think my mother's philosophy about dating or purpose for dating is really messed up, considering how she's supposedly a feminist and has tried to teach me all this stuff that she just goes against in her own practice. Like this whole like search for a man thing, which supposedly I was told that you don't have to value yourself on whether you have a man or if you're attractive to men and da-da-da-da-da.
The human element failed, and it was the mid-90s, so I turned to technology. Online dating was just starting out, so I became an early adopter of Match.com. I dumped the 3-date rule and decided that this is a numbers game. Meet as many as I can, as fast as I can, and hope for that one needle in the haystack. And met the guys at my local coffee shop.
Hello, Catherine.
I was convinced that the staff there thought I was a hooker, as I went there with a different man for weeks, sometimes twice a day.
Hello, Catherine.
This is who I met. I think my friends were feeling really sorry for me. So one of them mustered up one last setup. Jack was a French professor on sabbatical. He was so fun to talk to. He made it clear very early that he was on sabbatical for only a portion of his normal salary and would not be able to pay my way on our dates. I was okay with that until the day I met him for dinner in San Francisco. After he selected the cheapest dive joint, one where they sell gyros for $1.99, he announced that now that we dated 3 times, and by the way, did I notice how much he cared for me because he'd called me at work during the day and it was a toll call, it was time for us to have sex. I may have been out of circulation for a long time, but I certainly knew I was worth more than a toll call.
I expect a man to pursue me, who does pursue me, to carry all the responsibilities and all the expenses. Oh, the fellow always pays. They ask me out or they take me out, they pay for it. Everything. And I've always done that.
There's some men you'll date and they'll like to pay and that feels good and it's great. And, you know, and there's sometimes where it's like, okay, you pay this time and I'll pay the next time.
Oh, when I go on a date, it's usually like Dutch. I pay for myself. But it makes me uncomfortable having someone else pay for me sometimes. So it's just easier to pay for yourself, you know.
I don't really let anyone pay for me, usually, so that's not an issue.
Boy paid for everything. Boy made all the sexual moves. It's up to you to draw the line, if there was any line going to be drawn.
I think a lot of people that took you out aspired for close relationships without benefit of clergy.
Have I ever had sex on the first date? Yes. It's not something I would recommend, but times were different a long time ago. I was in the cutting edge of the sexual revolution.
You have to be really careful, I think, in the 90s to date or to be sexually active or whatever. It's really scary.
Dating and sex are not easily separated. My entire family is going to see this. And I'm 16, not like 47 or however old everyone else is. And which means I don't want to talk about it. Let's just leave it at that.
Dating and sex life. Well, it's involved in it. It's very much involved in it. But I'm not saying anything more than that. You can think what you please. You're not putting me down on that one.
I think that our attitudes about sexuality were parallel to Chinese foot binding. I remember that our dad said that I couldn't date until I was at least 16. I don't remember my actual first date. I don't remember if it was that guy. He had a white '56 Ford. And we used to regularly go to the drive-in. We would pick out a movie that was playing in a nearby movie house, and we would pick out the same movie that was playing in a nearby drive-in. And we'd go to the drive-in so that theoretically we could have something intelligent to say about the movie where we queried about it. But in fact, we didn't watch the movie too much.
It was my senior year in high school, and we had a dancing class down at the like the country club, and my mother remade her wedding dress so I'd have something to wear, and I invited he was a fraternity friend of my Uncle Willard's from University of Pennsylvania to escort me to this dance, and he did. I was told to be home at a certain time. Mother had us come in, we had a curfew. And we sat out in the car, and something fell on the floor in the front of a part of the car. He was in the driver's seat and I was beside him. And we bent over to pick this up, and the door opens, and there's my mother grabbing me out of the car. Oh, I could tell you a lot of funny things, but I don't know that I should.
But I would come home, and I would be home in front of the house in the car at a certain time when I was supposed to be. And she would stand on the front porch and flip the light on and off until I came in.
I don't remember my first date. I have no idea.
How old were you when you started dating?
I don't know, honestly. Do you remember?
My first date was I was 13, actually. But it was just like a movie and dinner. It wasn't I mean, I guess that's a date, but that was about it. My mom drove.
My first date was really stupid. It was in 6th grade with Kyle Stevens. We went to a movie, and I think his mother drove us. I got really mad at him because he wanted to pay, and I wouldn't let him. But he did anyway, I think. And I don't know, it was stupid. I was in 6th grade. You're not supposed to be dating in 6th grade. It's not real.
I hated having so many Match.com first dates that I gave up. In the meantime, Mom and Lloyd broke up. He wanted to get married, and she thought he was just looking for a nurse with a purse. Lloyd found someone younger and married her. But somehow he and Mom kept seeing each other and playing bridge. It was at about this time that I discovered that I have a superpower. If you date me, I can guarantee you'll meet the woman you want to marry. It all began at a spiritual retreat. I met a guy there who really pursued me until I agreed to go out with him. We had a lot of fun, but then he vanished. I later found out that the very next day, he met the woman he was going to marry. I thought he was BSing me, but that was just the beginning. It kept happening. It happened with a lawyer, that kidney machine owner, and a startup CFO. I thought maybe there was a business plan in here somewhere. Years passed and online dating became more sophisticated, so I thought I'd try it again. I joined eHarmony, which promised to match me based on an in-depth personality profile. I filled it out, submitted it, and got a notice. They were unable to match me. Deja vu all over again. Then it got interesting. I entered a completely unexpected period of dating men for extended periods of time. By far, the most interesting was Carl. I met him at church. That he was 15 years younger than me was interesting enough, but the fact that he was a paraplegic put him over the top in holding my interest. I'll forever be grateful for all I, and vicariously my girlfriends, learned from him. Meanwhile, Mom's Lloyd had a fall. He landed on his new wife and broke her hip, which delighted Mom to no end. Next up for me was a guy who did a voiceover for one of my projects. I should have been tipped off when the day after our first date he said he was joining AA. I'm glad he joined AA, don't get me wrong. But it was obviously not the right time to start a relationship. But we did. He had this habit of calling me at home when I was at work, or at work when I was at home, and leaving darling messages in his professional announcer's voice.
Hi, I bet you're working hard. Just think, pretty soon we'll be on the coast.
And when we travel, he would read every road sign and billboard out loud.
North San Pedro Road. Truck scale ahead.
Was it like doing sit-ups and he had to speak all the time or lose his residence? It took me months to realize he didn't want to talk to me, he just wanted to talk.
Exit.
Then there was David. We met on a group trip to Cuba. It must have been the rum. He too was 15 years younger, but had lots of money from writing a successful software program. He was really odd, but he was my first engineer, so I thought it was just part of the package. I was wrong. Then, on a trip to Alaska, I met the state gold panning champion, Michael Orlov. His first gift to me was the Michael Snow Globe. Then there was the Color Me Michael coloring book, the magnetic Michael refrigerator magnet, the Michael salt shaker, light switch cover, deck of cards, yo-yo, Etch-a-Sketch. The final straw was a stone, or rather 20 of them, in my plants, freezer, under my sheets. He didn't need me to love him. He was doing a pretty good job of it himself. So how was everyone else in my family doing?
I'm not really dating someone right now. I'm really with someone. So as far as dating, it's been a while since I kind of dated. His name is Vincent Porte. Yeah, he's French. He's from Paris. He's the first guy I've ever known to cry at movies when I don't cry at them. It's kind of neat, you know. He's very tender, very gentle. He's really nice to me, but he's like really fun. We joke around, and he stimulates me intellectually.
I prefer dating women. Well, I don't know if I'll prefer dating women to men like for the rest of my life, because I think like for right now that holds true, but I mean maybe when I'm like 30 and guys are finally acting their age, like it might be different.
I live with Corby Lawton, who is a very sweet man. He's a magical man. He's a carpenter at times. He's a painter at times. He carves pipes.
I don't really go on dates now. I don't go out to like, I mean, if I do something, I'd say it's in a group. It's not like a one-on-one situation.
You can choose not to date anybody, but then your friends have nothing to talk about.
As for me, I'd gotten to the point where none of it mattered all that much. I'd go on a date or I wouldn't. So I was surprised to be at a dinner with friends one night and meet a man I kind of took a shine to. We dated, fell in love, moved in together, got married, his first, my third, and final.
My name is Rainbow, and I've been married to Vincent for 15 years.
I'm Elaine, and I've been with Corby for 20 years.
I'm Deirdre, and I've been with Matt for 4.5 years.
I'm Catherine. I've been married to Anthony for 4 years.
I'm Allie, and I've been married to Lisa for 2 hours.
Was that good? There was a little screw up in there.